in today's class, I want to continue on with the topic of characteristics of living things. I'm going to show you an organism.
It's glow in the dark.
Not quite glow in the dark.
Glow in the dark. The white thing is glow. You're here.
Ladies and gentlemen. Quiet, please. See if I can get this to play. I'm not sure why. In the last class, or actually 2 classes ago, you had to do a pre-assessment where you had to indicate what you thought could be used to identify if something was alive or not alive. Using all of your ideas, I created a word cloud. The larger the word is on the word cloud,
The bigger it is and more.
the more times different people said it in the class. So we came up with something like this, and people identified breathing, moving, eating as some of the main characteristics of identifying if something is alive or not alive. Then people listed 8 items. And based on what we thought was alive, they had to classify those 8 items based on only this criteria. We ran into some difficulties with this classification. Would anybody who was here on Friday like to suggest some of the reasons why we had some difficulties? Todd?
Because trees can't, physically move.
They don't pick up their roots and start walking down the street. Reagan? Do you remember what any of the other challenges that we had?
Well, I get into the how we get this wood. How we can do
Rebecca? Okay. Eli?
Also similar to what Todd said, a plant or something like that, or a tree, it might be hard to figure out whether it's alive or not, because under the criteria you have a heartbeat as being alive, and so a tree doesn't have a pulse or a heartbeat.
So we had to find some new words to classify things. What were some of the new words that we came up with last day to decide if something was alive or not alive? What was one of those words? Yes. Todd. Respirate instead of the word breathe.
Growth.
Pardon me?
Resting.
Growth could be one of them instead of movement. So this recognition that there's some kind of life cycle for living beings. Today what we're going to do is look at the more scientific list of what we use to classify as something being alive or not alive. Question?
One more thing, instead of saying the science is eating, taking the photosynthesis.
Okay, but if I look over at that plant, is it munching on something? It's physically chewing on the air?
Yeah.
So instead of using some of these words, we use some different words. Now, you need to get out your shutter book. Scientists use 6 things to determine if something is alive or not alive. I will introduce you to 5 of those things today. What do you think the first image is trying to show you? Nope. Rebecca? Yes. All living things make more of themselves. Now, it does not mean that all members of something have the capacity to reproduce. For example, in a bee colony, only one of those bees can reproduce.
The queen bee.
You've got it. queen bee, the worker bees do not have the ability to make more baby bees. If the queen dies, what happens?
No, get another queen.
If the queen bee dies, one of the worker drones becomes the queen bee and gains the ability to reproduce. It's very, very cool. What is the second picture trying to show you, Emily? Not breathing. Not quite.
Yeah.
Oh, not quite. No. Rebecca? Oh, yes. Yes.
Breathing out yummy.
But we're going to generalize. Lie down. We're going to generalize and say gas exchange. Respiration is a very specific method of gas exchange, and it doesn't include every living being. For example, bacteria in the deepest part of the oceans do not need to get oxygen. They live in a deoxygenated environment, and they use things like methane to build parts of themselves. All right. What is happening in the third picture?
He's sweating.
Oh.
Give him water. Give him water.
Why?
Because
What's that yellow thing above the person that might be causing them to lose water?
oh yeah, the sun is pulling the heat off of them. Like the evaporate. Evaporate.
Okay. So, if you are outside on a summer day, what is your body's response to being warm?
Sweat.
You sweat. That is a way of cooling you off. Because when the water moisture evaporates from your skin, it takes heat away from your body. And it cools your core body temperature down. This is a response. This is also a response, but instead of being a person, it's a plant. How many of you have seen this happen with a plant in the house? Especially if you've ever started seeds. If you start seeds, you have to constantly turn the pot. Otherwise, the seedlings will just keep growing towards the light, and they'll be crooked.
If you have a garden, it's really amazing to go out in the morning, right? They'll be facing one way, and then by the evening, they'll be total opposite.
Yes.
It's really cool.
Have you ever had sunflowers in your garden?
Big heads that just they move around.
Oh,
It is
so
really
neat.
cool.
Are sunflowers going in one direction?
Pardon me?
Are sunflowers one day in one direction, and then the stem curves heading the other?
Really? That's interesting. I wonder why that is. Okay, so this trait here is response to stimuli. Have you heard of this word stimuli before?
Yeah, I have. It heard the word stimulate, which is like making the real thing. It's just the root. Stimulate, stimuli.
So, for example, if I were to grab a pen and it was way too hot, what? Right? I have a reaction to that. Have you ever been in the dark, maybe working in the computer lab, and someone like me comes in and turns on all the lights?
Like when you wake up in the morning and your parents come click on the light.
I used to have a corn snake at my last school. And his name was George. He was named after Curious George. And he liked warm spots. So at at night when I would let him out of his cage, he would actually like to curl up right here. And he'd like to like wind himself around the neck and just curl up right here. Yeah. Because it was warm. Yeah. He was a ghost corn snake. Best class pet ever. I would rather have a snake than a gerbil or fish any day. Coolest part about having a snake is when you get to feed it.
No, that's cool.
Yeah, give him a live mouse dangling your fish.
But only if it was live mice. I did not like to feed George dead mice because, first of all, dead mice come frozen, so you have to warm up a dead mouse. Second of all, he won't eat it unless it moved. So you would have to play with the dead mouse
That's awesome.
so that George would eat it.
You know what's the best pet animal ever? It's a flying. It's called. It's like a little chipmunk. But it's like also a flying squirrel. But it's like so puny. It's like this big, and it's flat. Like it's here and it jumps. It puts its wings, like its paws out, and it has skin in it. So it's like he was like this.
Okay. So stimuli can be pain, it can be light, it can be heat. Some organisms can detect if something is acidic or not acidic, if it's a salty environment or not a salty environment. So this is really important if an organism lives in a marsh, like a freshwater, saltwater marsh. So there's lots of input that organisms need to respond to. What is this picture trying to suggest? Okay.
Apple with a 10.
There's too much talking going on here. Okay. The next one is obtaining nutrients. We don't say eat because not everything has a mouth. Eating is a mechanical process. We put our food in a mouth, we chew, and we swallow. Not everything has a mouth. The fifth one has actually not come up yet. Not in your suggestions, and there's no appropriate picture for it. The fifth one is getting rid of waste products. Yeah, I don't think you would appreciate a picture of things pooping and peeing.
I got my waist dirty.
We also get rid of stuff from our body by exhaling. We lose water, moisture, and carbon dioxide. We lose stuff by sweating. For example, some of you played hockey on Friday. Okay. When you have an intense workout like that, you sweat out a lot of electrolytes. You have to replace those. Okay. So those are the 5 key things that we use to identify if something is alive or if something is not alive. Question, Megan?
Oh, no.
Okay. You need to find out the nutrients, how it consumes food. You have to look for how does it breathe, how it reacts to stimuli, etc. Okay? Now, you can do this in a couple of ways. I'll just go up here. So whenever I create an assignment, it goes up on the stream like this. If you go into open, you can do a couple of things. You can do something and create it from scratch. You have docs, slides, sheets, and drawings. Okay? I don't tell you how you need to do this assignment. I've just given you what you need to do. Or if you click on this link, it is going to open up the document for you, automatically attached to Google Classroom. It's really, really helpful if you do it this way. And it already has the chart for you, so that if you want, you can double click on the drawing and you can add and revise whatever you want. You don't have to keep the font or the color the same. You can totally customize this. This is just a blueprint of where to start, okay? Now, the nice thing is, it's already dropped my name in here so that I know who it is. Or sometimes what I like to do is I like to actually put my name in the front. And that way, it's really easy for the teacher to see. But it automatically puts your name into the title of the assignment so that when I go out of this, if I want to turn in the assignment, I should just be able to press turn in, and it pulls this into Google Classroom for me. Yeah. Okay. But if you would rather start from scratch in one of these other things, you can do that too. Okay. Yes.
Is it okay if we make ours online and then we just copy the link? I did this in Mr. King's class. We just copy the link and then you paste it onto doc, like under the same thing, and then when you go to it, you can, and I'll give it a title, and you can go click on it, and it'll take you straight to it.
We could do that, but the way I've set this up is I actually told Google Classroom to make a new copy for each student, so you shouldn't have to do any copying and pasting. As soon as you go into Google Classroom, go into the assignment and click on this, it automatically opens up a sheet for you, a sheet for you, a sheet for you, a sheet for you. So you don't have to do any copying and pasting of anything. It's automatically done.
So what do I just go click onto that link that you have there, and then I just click onto that link, and then it'll and then make one for me, and then I go to my docs, and I should have one right there. Ready to go?
Everything should be in Google Docs already. So for example, if I go into my drive, I will see this in my drive. Okay. Ben and Sakashi, could you please go and get the